Hi, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Emiko Atherton and I am the Director of the National Complete Streets Coalition, which is a program of Smart Growth America. I'm so glad that all of you can join me today to talk about the Safe Streets Smart Cities Academy and what we have in store for this year. And so here is an overview of the agenda that we're going to be talking about. First is, what is the Safe Streets Smart Cities Academy? Who is the Academy for? How do you apply? And really your questions. I think I will only talk for about 12 to 15 minutes. So really the point of this webinar is to answer any questions you may have about the application process or the actual Safe Streets Smart Cities Academy. You can type your questions into the chat box in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, and we'll make sure to get to all of those at the end of my introductory session. So I want to start out by talking about what is the Academy. The Academy is really part of the National Safety Council's Road to Zero Coalition, which is a program to move toward zero road fatalities. They award innovation grants each year to communities and organizations that are really working on moonshot programs to reduce traffic fatalities throughout the United States. We were really lucky this year to receive a second year of funding to run a technical assistance program with jurisdictions across the country to both learn about how to design safer street systems for all users of all abilities, and then to test out what they're learning in demonstration projects. You can find more about the Road to Zero Coalition by visiting their website, which we will share at the end of this presentation. So the Safe Streets Academy is itself a program over a 12-month time frame to work with 3 communities in the United States on complete streets implementation. We do this through really starting to examine what are the policies, projects, processes, and procedures that are barriers in your communities to complete implementation, and then how to overcome those barriers. And we are going to then test out what you're learning in demonstration projects. We define a demonstration project as a temporary project to reduce speeding on a dangerous local corridor through creative placemaking, tactical urbanism, or engineering measures. We meet 3 times in person, so all 3 communities meet 3 times. Each community that is selected, we meet in your home community to both learn from national experts that are flown in, and so we hear from national experts on community engagement and equity, professional engineering, land use and urban design, creative placemaking, and smart cities, as well as overall traffic engineering. So we meet for 2 days, 3 times in person to learn about these, participate in interactive exercises, really walk the streets, have case studies where we start to apply this, and then to plan, execute, and present on a demonstration project. I think many of you are familiar with the first round of the Safe Streets Academy, which we wrapped up a few months ago. And we have case studies available on our website about those projects which were done in the Consolidated Government of Lexington, Kentucky, South Bend, Indiana, and Orlando, Florida. The Academy also includes 6 monthly distance learning modules where we look at planning and designing for active transportation and transit, designing and operating for Vision Zero, how to do creative placemaking and prototyping to reduce speed, curbside management strategies for new mobility options, and planning for freight logistics. Which sets this Academy apart from last year's, we're going to start to also look at new technologies that are emerging in the land use and transportation sphere that we know often under the Smart Cities banner. And by that, I'm not just talking about automated vehicles, but I'm talking about how we price the curb, how we deal with curbside management, how we start to look at how technologies might influence how we plan, looking at electric vehicle charging stations, and ways to more automate transit. So we'll be bringing that into the curriculum as well this year, really pulling from the expertise in-house of our Smart Cities Collaborative, as well as pulling in other national experts. What's great about this program is that the National Complete Streets Coalition is a program of Smart Growth America, so we pull in experts from our own staff who work in creative placemaking, in transportation design and planning, in transportation policy, in smart cities and community engagement. But we also pull from many of our coalition steering committee members who work in this realm. Our steering committee consists of groups such as AARP, the National Association of Realtors, but also the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the Association of Bicycle and Pedestrian Professionals, the American Society of Landscape Architects, just to name a few. Who is the Academy for? So hopefully it is for you. We right now have applications where we will be selecting 3 communities to participate in this from around the country. We are asking that each community select 10 practitioners from your jurisdiction who work in managerial roles in public health and engineering, managing and mid-level transportation engineers and planners, transportation budget decision makers, as well as other people who work in community engagement, law enforcement, EMS, fire, and public health have all been very useful. We'll select the 3 jurisdictions based on the quality of your application, as well as really what we feel you can learn from the other 2 jurisdictions that we select. So we're not just looking for the best, but we're looking for the best match of 3 communities that can learn from each other. This is as much about technical assistance training to all of you as it is about creating a peer network of complete streets leaders in the country who can work together and share best practices on building safe street systems for all users of all abilities. So who's eligible? So the eligibility criteria is that your jurisdiction must have a population of at least 100,000. You should have adopted at least one of the following plans, so a bicycle or pedestrian master plan, have a complete streets policy, a Vision Zero policy, or multimodal design guidelines, and you must commit in the application process to all the requirements of the Safe Streets Academy. The requirements, which we have you agree to in advance, is that you send the 10-person cohort to all trainings and participate in all distance learning modules. Because this is such a special opportunity provided by the Road to Zero Coalition for us to work with all of you, we want to really ensure maximum participation. We also require that you complete a demonstration project, and that means that you take what you're doing and you apply it to a project on the ground that can have to do with traffic calming. It can be at a much bigger measure doing some type of road diet. It can be, and it can last from a minimum of a weekend to up to 6 months. For ideas of other demonstration projects, I would look at the Safe Streets Academy case studies from last year. What we really want you to do is, again, test out things, feel free to fail, and use things like smart cities and creative placemaking in these demonstration projects. We do give you $8,000 to complete this demonstration project, but require that you raise an additional $8,000 in matching funds or documented in-kind donations for the demonstration project. We also require that you work with us to produce a case study on the demonstration project. We ask that you host one of the in-person trainings, and what that means is that you provide meeting space, breakfast and lunch, and transportation from the hotel to the site visit. We do cover travel costs for everyone we cover airfare for each individual to visit another city up to $500 a trip plus hotel, but we do ask that you provide a meeting space, breakfast and lunch, and transportation from the hotel to the meeting space to be part of the Academy. We also require that you present your recommendations to your local Department of Transportation and the community, and that means elected leadership, so that you are required to then present this to the decision makers in your community. And we also require that you join the Road to Zero Coalition, which is a great program that you should join anyway, which you can do at nsc.org/road20. So how to apply? So you should submit a completed application at the link above. What you'll be asked to do is answer a series of questions about your jurisdiction's safety priorities. We do believe that one of the successes to complete streets implementation is high-level buy-in, so we do require a letter of endorsement from a local elected official. The deadline to apply is Sunday, August 19th. I think it will be at midnight Eastern Time, and then we'll conduct interviews with all the finalists the week of September 3rd, so that's the week after Labor Day. And so that is your questions on applications. And with that, I'd like to open it up to all of your questions. So I am going to start with the questions I have in front of me. So the first question is, do you have to travel to trainings or are you coming here? And the answer is both. So for example, I'll talk about last year. We selected, again, Lexington, Orlando, and South Bend. We started out in Orlando, where Orlando hosted it, as well as their 10 participants. But then the 10 people from South Bend and 10 people from Lexington flew to Orlando for the training. I also flew with a group of national experts and my colleague Heather Zuccaro to participate and train in Orlando. Then the group moved on to Lexington, where then Lexington hosted us, and those same about 25 people all flew into Lexington, and then we finished up in South Bend. So you'll see you have an opportunity as someone who is, as a jurisdiction who is selected, you have an opportunity to travel twice and show off your home community once. So what is the definition of a jurisdiction is the next question. So the definition of a jurisdiction is a government, a governing body with a population of over 100. So that can be a city, that could be a county, it could be a regional body, so that might be a regional planning committee or a metropolitan planning organization. The next question I have is this webinar being recorded? The answer is yes. Can you share the slides? Yes. So I have the next question is, who needs to be present at the interview should you be selected for an interview? And I ask that the person who selected the interview be present, but I'd also like to hear I'd like kind of the highest ranking transportation engineer and planner to be on the call. The next question that I have is, can you repeat the travel assistance details? Yes. So what we cover as part of your participation in the Safe Streets Academy is when you are traveling, we will cover per trip. So 2 times we'll cover up to $500 per person for flight transportation, trains. If you needed to drive there, for instance, people from Lexington last year just drove to South Bend, so we covered their mileage. So we cover up to $500 of that. We cover your hotels. It's usually 2 nights while you're in town, so we add you to a room block and we make the hotel arrangements, although we do ask you to make the flight arrangements yourselves, and we reimburse you. We also provide up to $25 for 2 nights for dinner when you're traveling. That does not include alcohol, but we cover, again, up to $25 in meals. So you get, again, per trip, $500 for transportation to the event. So that could include, say, a taxi to the airport, your flight, and then your taxi to the hotel, plus $25 a day to cover, again, your dinner, because we provide breakfast and lunch, although alcohol is not included. Do you need letters from all 10 members or just an elected official? Just an elected official, but we ask that you name and identify each member of the cohort in advance. We find this is one of the keys to success, is that everyone who's participating has bought on to participating. We've had experience in the past with other programs having one person apply and then they've had to find the other 9 people, and often those other 9 people are not bought in. So we want you to get excited and get 9 other people in your community excited before you apply. So my next question is, can the 10-person cohort include members of a local nonprofit that work with municipalities or transit authorities? I'd say yes, up to 2 people. My next question is there a frequently asked question sheet with all of this information? And the answer is yes. We will publish this recording along with the frequently asked questions on our blog. So stay tuned very quickly. The next question I have is, can multiple jurisdictions apply as a unit? So what I'm assuming that this, and type in the box if this is your question, is that you say you're a county, a city, and an MPO that wants to apply to do a project to be the 10-person group. I would say yes, but think about it really carefully, because we're going to ask that then you focus all of your work on one of those agencies. So if you choose to say, if you choose to have the city, county, and MPO apply, we'd ask that you then focus your project and aligning everything towards, say, the city's project or the county's project. So we won't do 3 different projects, and we'll ask you to really think as one unit versus think as 3 separate units, if that makes sense. And send a clarifying question if that does not make sense. The next question is, can small jurisdictions apply together to meet the requirements? I would say send me an email, because it depends. We do have a certain population base that we do need to meet in order to reach, but I would just need to know more details. You might think about applying through a higher up agency, such as your regional planning organization, MPO, or county. The next question is, what criteria was used to select the 3 localities last year? It seems all localities were large metropolitan cities. I would say that, so what we looked at was really the quality of the applications, the cohorts they put together, really thoughtful. It seemed like there were a lot of buy-ins within the application and on the calls. I would say the 3 cities last year seemed that they had started work, but they looked like they really demonstrated a need for additional technical assistance. We picked 3 jurisdictions that we thought would really complement each other. Again, we didn't just pick the best, but the 3 that we felt would best work together. I would say that in terms of 3 large metropolitan cities, because it might seem that way, we do have the population floor of $100,000, so we are going to be looking at mid-size and larger localities. We do ask that you are a jurisdiction, if you are applying as a regional cohort, that you are a jurisdiction that you work with a jurisdiction where you actually can build stuff on the ground. So you want to think about, if you don't own and maintain your own streets, making sure that a member of your coalition is willing to do that on their streets, because we want to go out there. We don't want this to happen just in a park or a privately owned space. We need this to happen in the public, the demonstration project to happen in the public right away. The next question I have is, what is the ideal team makeup? So I think a really good team involves high-level leadership in transportation planning and engineering and public works. I think it also includes members of the fire department, EMS, as well as public health and community engagement. I would say have a few people that are not totally bought in. You don't want just the believers as part of your cohort. I think, we always say make sure a couple people are the skeptical but open, because, I think this is most impactful in a community where you just don't have all the people that are really excited, and then you come back and you've still got the people that are really excited and the people that are skeptical. Try to include some statistics, but also people that have decision-making ability. I think that's really important. You might even, so think about, again, those key engineers, the key planners, but also public health, fire, EMS, someone that might control kind of land use and zoning decisions, but also someone who really has the ear of political leadership in your community. So that's what you want to be thinking about when you put together your cohort. The next question I have is, should you already have the demonstration project identified when you applied? No, you're more than welcome to. So last year, Orlando had already picked theirs out. But in a way, we kind of hope you don't, because I think what's one of the things we talk about at the first session is studying. You might want to have some ideas of corridors or intersections or projects you want to work on, but you do not. Part of what we do in the very beginning is start to develop what you think might be the most impactful project. So absolutely do not worry about that in advance. The next question I have is, can the $8,000 match be partly in the form of grant-funded staff time, or does it need to be cash? I think staff time would be fine as long as it is documented. What we ask in the match is that you are able to provide that if it's in-kind support or grant-supported staff time, that you just provide us documentation that that has happened. It does not need to be cash. It can also be in-kind, but we ask that what we want is really some buy-in and some your teeth in the, what's the word I'm looking for? Some skin in the game in terms of putting something sizable into that demonstration project. The next question that I have is, our city just today established a multi-agency planning committee to combat pedestrian fatalities. Would having multiple departments involved be conducive to this department? Probably. I would love to hear more about it, but my first gut reaction is probably the answer is yes. But if you want to run by the specifics, feel free to shoot me an email. So our next question is, can project plans include areas that face flooding mitigation issues? Absolutely. I think we see stormwater management and transportation infrastructure go hand in hand. Again, it needs to have, we really ask people to identify high-risk corridors for speed-related fatalities. But if it overlays with a flooding mitigation issue, I think that is just fine with me. So my question is, did you say only 2 non-city staff is allowed? Yes, we encourage you to, really a lot of this program is designed to get actually city staff trained up to speed, and really we call this, to get the implementers, the people that actually go out and do the work from a city, or I'd say from a more jurisdictional government or agency perspective, to be part of it. But we have had members who are part of the university community or nonprofit community join us last time, which was helpful. But we do want to make sure that the bulk of the participants are actually the staff that we call like the kind of the internal, the DNA of those agencies, the staff that make up the DNA of the agencies. And at this point, do we have any other questions? Well, I hope all of you consider applying, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will have my email up you can send it to info@completestreets.org, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, but that is sooner rather than later. Stay tuned quickly for a blog on the frequently asked questions. So we do have another question. Any suggestions for organizations that applied last year? I would say if you want to reach out, if you applied last year, shoot me an email, and we can talk about kind of what we thought last year. I'll have to jog my memory, but we went through, Heather and I, my colleague Heather Zakar and I went through and read all of them, and we talked to many of you, and so we'd be happy to talk to you about specifically areas we could see room for improvement. So please feel free to reach out again at info@completestreets.org. All right, at this point, I don't see any more questions. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. I hope you found that this answered your questions. And we will get back. We will post the blog within the next week. And again, you can send us questions, and we hope to see all of your applications August 19th. And again, if you're looking for inspiration, please check out, and we'll have this in the Frequently Asked Questions blog, our Safe Streets Academy case studies from last year. So thank you very much. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing your application soon.